G'day legends, I hope you're all fantastic. Welcome to another installment of Monday Q&A. I am still coming at you from Sydney in Australia, the opposite side of the big continent that we live on, from my home in Perth, week 7 of week 9 here. Definitely missing home, but I'm still very thankful that people are taking the time to tune into the channel, ask questions. If you want me to answer a question on the next Q&A, just drop it in the comments below. And I do have to give a massive shout out to my amazing patrons who support me over on Patreon. Link in the video description if you want to get access to some exclusive content and support the channel, and to everybody who takes the time to go and check out the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. If you love big vocal hooks, pounding drums, and kind of greasy guitar noises, and you like what I do on the channel, and you haven't checked it out, it's all linked in the video description. You can go and listen thanks to the power of the internet. And thanks to the power of the internet, we're just gonna rip straight into this Q&A. Let's go. A little follow-up from a video that I did last week talking about my mobile studio setup here. Lots of people wanted to know why I'm using the UA Apollo in conjunction with my FM3. The FM3 does have a USB audio interface, and it lets me record guitar via that USB audio interface. It's totally fine. But doing what I do here on YouTube, I also need to be able to record my voice, which is where the Apollo's mic pre's and built-in effects come in handy. So at the moment, I'm talking into a Shure SM7B, into the Apollo. I've got the Neve Unison preamp. That's a feature I really love on the Apollo. And then I'm using the Empirical Labs Distressor plugin on there. It just makes pulling a good vocal sound for talking and then maybe noodling on guitar a little bit and then talking about the noodling. And people have pointed out that I like to talk a lot on this channel, in case you haven't noticed. Anyway, it makes doing that very easy. So that's why I've got the Apollo Twin here with me. To me, the FM3 is the smallest form factor that does everything I want for guitar sounds, and the Apollo Twin is the smallest form factor that lets me do everything that I want for everything else that comes to kind of recording things for my YouTube channel over here. So just a bit of clarity there. If I was just playing guitar, yeah, I could plug headphones straight into the FM3 if I wanted to record it. USB to the computer is awesome, but I've got some extra needs on top of that. And I do find that just having a dedicated audio interface to do audio interface things does make things a little bit easier. A question from a very happy FM3 user: are you missing anything if you have never tried a Strymon BigSky? If you like the way the fractal reverbs sound, are the BigSky reverbs better, worse, comparable? I think if you've got the fractal stuff, you've got access to some of the very best reverbs out there. But I will say, if you like reverb, you do kind of owe it to yourself to try a BigSky. It is a modern classic. I think what Strymon got so right are the presets on those units. You can take out a BigSky or a BigSky MX, plug it in, scroll through the presets, and it's just kind of instantly inspiring, like whether it's the classic room plate hall algorithms, or it's a big shimmery sounds, or stuff like the ensemble from Cloudburst on the BigSky MX. I think Strymon belongs in the conversation along with companies like Lexicon and Roland, and going way back, EMT, and kind of spring reverbs like the old Fender reverbs is just a classic sound. The cloud reverb on the Strymons for music in the 2000s and 2010s is probably what spring reverb was to the 50s and 60s. It's absolutely classic. I think Fractal kind of have their own versions of those sounds. Like the Stratocumulus reverb is one of my favorite reverbs ever. It sounds amazing, but they're kind of just different flavors. Some people like Vegemite, other people like Marmite. Some people don't like it at all, and they think the people who like both are totally crazy. And I think reverb is exactly like that. Okay, on to the big unanswerable questions of life. I talked about my favorite guitar tones on the last Q&A. What about some of my favorite guitar solos? I'm going to approach this in the same way, where I'm just going to talk about some solos that were like particularly important and influential for me along the way. Then I'll talk about some solos that I just kind of like playing that maybe are a bit cliche, and I'll even mention solos that I've recorded that I actually still find listenable for me, even though they're things that I've recorded. So I think the first one for me was off the Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous album, the solo to Still in Love with You. That was the one that got me into lead guitar. It's the first solo I ever tried to learn. The first solo, which I think is Scott Gorham on there. Very, very straightforward, melodic, bluesy, just in the pocket, great tone. And then you've got Robbo's solo, which just kind of takes it to another level. It's this big emotional climax on there. So that was a great way to start learning lead guitar. The solo that I think probably absolutely reconfigured my brain would be the Racer X song Frenzy. And hearing that for the first time on a compilation CD, I was like, there's no way this is actually somebody playing the guitar. You can't be that fast, that articulate, that precise, yet still be that aggressive and have so much conviction on there. And still, like 19-year-old Paul Gilbert is in a league of his own when it comes to what I consider the sound of shred. Like that is shredding. Nothing else is shredding. That is just absolutely raw dogging the electric guitar in a way that nobody else could do, in my opinion. So that was super influential. It got me into watching Paul's stuff and just, as a foundation for guitar technique, very, very good. And I just try to steal as many of those licks as I can. Ultimate stunt guitar solo. But I think my favorite solo from the whole 80s era is probably the John Sykes solo on Whitesnake's Crying in the Rain. That to me has it all. The big melodic bits, the just giant chungus vibrato, the tone, the way the solo builds and climaxes. It's kind of what Cocaine would sound like if Cocaine could play the electric guitar. So yeah, those ones were super, super important for me, and I still hear them and just have my mind blown. Probably one of the most important solos that I ever heard in my life, and a solo that just kind of broke me with how beautiful it was, and it hit me at the perfect time in my life, was on the Pink Floyd album, The Division Bell, the song Coming Back to Life. And I even get choked up just thinking about that solo. It's just everything. I think there's better or more iconic David Gilmour solos out there. We can all probably name them and probably play a lot of them as well, but something about the way he plays that song, the way he sings that song, the way the two are just inseparable on there, I think is super special. And I still kind of get choked up, like I said, just even thinking about the solo in that song. So yeah, that one's pretty amazing. It definitely taught me that the old cliche of it's not what you play, it's how you play it is so very important. What else? Some solos that maybe I came to appreciate later, like definitely the solo in Sweet Child of Mine or any Slash solo. Wasn't a huge Slash fan. I'm not someone who's going to put on Guns N' Roses that often to listen to. I know Appetite for Destruction is foundational for so many people, but it just wasn't foundational for me. But it wasn't until I started gigging and playing covers and having to play that solo in Sweet Child of Mine. I remember the first time I played it, I just didn't play the solo. I was like, you can just get on stage and play some licks and people don't care. People cared that I didn't play that solo, and that is still the guitar solo that you play live where everybody loses their mind. People just go ape for that one. So having that experience where it was like, oh, actually maybe learning some of these solos note for note is kind of important. Sweet Child of Mine definitely taught me that one. And it is a cliche that, oh, wow, you can play that guitar solo in there. It is a great guitar solo. And like I said, having a room full of people lose their mind when you play it is just like, well, I'm just a vessel for this amazing thing to pass into people's ears. A few others that come to mind, we talked about Alex Lifeson and his guitar tone on Limelight. The solo on Limelight is up there for just absolutely masterful craft. The way he built that solo, the kind of emotion in it, all the whammy bar tricks. Maybe an unheralded one, I think, would be Alan Holdsworth's solo in the UK song In the Dead of Night. Like all the tricks in that solo, and that is like well before the kind of Guitar Hero shred era in there. And Alan was just doing alien things back in the late 70s. Al Di Meola is another player that I really, really love. And the Guitar Trio album he did with Paco de Lucia and John McLaughlin, like all the solos on that, that's one of my favorite things ever. It's just a constant whittle fest, but there's just some of the greatest guitar playing ever put to tape. Maybe some slightly more modern stuff, even though the song probably came out in the 90s. Michael Romeo, Sea of Lies, that was another song that broke my brain. Pretty much any Alter Bridge solo as well. I think Mark Tremonti has become an amazing soloist, and the way he kind of blends a lot of modal interchange into his playing. And one last one, it would be the George Lynch solo in For a Million Years. And if you've heard the Ragdoll song Heaven Above and the riff in that, that was very much me vibing on that whole Lynch vibe. So yeah, there's like a million amazing solos I could name. Trying to pick one, as I'm sure most of you would know, is impossible. When it comes to solos, I've actually played on Ragdoll stuff. The solo on the song Self-Censored. That was kind of our take on a Limelight style song, and I tried to do a similar thing there. Really happy with the way that one turned out. And the song Rust, because it's got all the tricks in there. Yeah, definitely channeling a bit of Marty Friedman. And of course, like Marty Friedman, Tornado of Souls, greatest metal guitar solo of all time. So let me know some of your favorite solos in the comments section below. I've kind of prattled on long enough about this. I'm going to stop recording this, and while I'm editing it, think of about another 100. But yeah, there were a bunch of solos that for me, they taught me more than just a bunch of licks. They taught me about music, and some of them, it's going to sound so corny, they taught me about life, and you can't get any more meaningful than that, can you? Moving right along to some gear related questions. A lot of you have noticed that I'm playing this 335 a lot, mostly because I've only got 3 guitars here with me in Sydney. This one has kind of become the hotel room guitar that I've been playing a lot. What are these pickups? Are they stock? Yes, they are stock pickups. This is a 79 ES335 TD, and shout out to my buddy Clifton Wright, who's definitely one of the most ridiculous guitar wranglers out there on the face of the earth. I think Cliff had a pretty similar guitar to this, and he pointed out that these are most likely T-tops, and I love the way they sound. The neck pickup in particular might be my favorite sounding neck pickup ever. It's just so clear and open and like articulate. It's the opposite of what you would expect a Gibson neck pickup to sound like. Basically, it almost kind of sounds more like a Telecaster neck pickup or something like that. And it's got the coil split tap, whatever you want to say on there. So yeah, super vibey guitar, this one. I've been loving playing it, and shout out to Williams Guitars here in Perth for refretting this one and definitely giving it a new lease on life. I absolutely love it. A question that popped up on the video that I did comparing the PRS SE DGT to my DGT Core, and I do have the DGT Core with me here. I've been playing it a lot on the show. Have I considered upgrading the bridge on the SE? I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. I feel like it's just kind of nice having that guitar more or less in its stock form. But I did read that question and think, my PRS CE24, the newer one that I've got, that has the same bridge as the SE. And I'd be really curious to try one of the man-made bridges on that in its place, just to see if there actually is a difference that's noticeable both acoustically, because the acoustic sound of your electric guitar is, whether it makes that much of a difference to the amplified sound or not, you're going to be playing that guitar unplugged a lot. Enjoying that experience is important. And then obviously if it actually makes a difference to the electric sound on there. So it would be a tricky comparison to make, because obviously it takes a non-negligible amount of time to change the bridge over. But let me know. Like, I'm down to do these experiments if people are curious about it. I'm more than happy to shell out the money to see if it does make a difference. And if it does, I'm happy to report that and encourage people to do it. Or if it doesn't make that much of a difference, I guess that's a really interesting outcome as well, because maybe that's one less thing for people to think about when it comes to their gear. If they're not getting the sound that they want, or if they are getting the sound that they want, but maybe they think they can make it better, maybe that's actually not possible. So again, I'm curious to know if anybody has actually done that upgrade. I think the core bridges that they use on there, they just kind of look cooler. The metal is shinier. It looks more premium. That's definitely something that plays into the mindset, and might just be a placebo thing, but if it's there, right? I did mention a little while ago about putting together a video about just kind of like, health and well-being for guitar players, because we do develop these habitual problems, whether it's pain in your shoulder or your back or posture issues or other things related to the fact that we're kind of hunched over these things. I am hoping to do a video in the next couple of weeks with a friend who lives in Sydney who's an exercise physiologist, and we were talking about this. Like, there's not many videos out there about just things that you can do to improve your physical well-being as a guitar player. So I'm hoping I can get that one out finally, just kind of a follow-up from something a little while ago. A bunch of people did express interest in that one, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I do have some cool gear related videos coming out in the next couple of weeks as well, which I'm really excited to share with all of you. And I'm actually going to be in Budapest, Hungary for I think it's the Siget, or is it the Siget Festival? If you're from Hungary, my apologies with the pronunciation, or pronunciation as I should say. That one is coming up at the start of August, and then I'll be back home from the middle of August. So kind of regular service will resume there. If you've got any requests, questions, or general comments, please put them in the comment section below. And again, if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube, links to support me in the video description. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I look forward to answering some more of your questions on the next Q&A. Thanks so much for the support. Be safe, be good to one another, and I'll see you next time.